Imagine if somebody would call you cold-blooded and bizarre. It'd be a tremendous insult. But then if they said, no, I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about these reptiles, these frogs and snakes and lizards and all kinds of other stuff. It's amazing. Not only that, it would be a great name for a store. And in fact, that's the store I'm standing in front of right now. Cold-blooded and bizarre. One of the coolest stores I've ever been into. It's a place that sells reptiles. Let's go in and see. And welcome again to another episode of Rabbi O on the Go. Let's see where we're going with this one. We're in the store now, cold-blooded and bizarre. And we're in the frog section. And there are frogs here. They're so gorgeous, you can't imagine. You got blue frogs, you got yellow frogs. There are collectors. These things cost $200, maybe even $400 for an albino. So what am I doing in this section? Well, this week's parsha is about frogs. So one of the items that comes in, the second plague. Millions of frogs descend on Egypt. And Paro goes crazy. And he calls in Moshe and Aaron and he says, get rid of them, no matter what it takes. Moses prays, end of problem. Well, sort of, because in the plague of the water turned to blood, and then the blood turned right back into water. No problem, life goes on, and Pharaoh was able to be in denial and say, doesn't really make a difference, everything's normal again, I'm still going to persecute the Jews. But in this case, even when the frogs stopped, there were still millions of frogs all over the land, and there was a stench. And the verse says that they piled up the frogs, and the whole land stank. And right after that it says, and Paro found relief. Now, how do you find relief when there's stinky frogs all over your country in piles? The answer is, the word relief is a very interesting word in Hebrew. And I'm basing what I say now on a 16th century commentator called the Kliyaka. And he says the following. The word revach, relief, literally means space. Just like in English, when a person gets relief from a situation, you kind of at a distance, you're a bit away from it. Like in English, we say, give me my space. I feel relief because I have my own space. Yet in Hebrew, the word relief and space is exactly the same word. And he explains, it's not that Paro got relief. What he did is he gave himself space. He found a place in Egypt with all these millions of stacks of frogs all over the place, but he found one place that was a space. It was a way. A mile, 5 miles, I don't know, and there was no stench and no dead frogs. And he was able to be there and say, I can have a little relief now. I can breathe, things are normal, let me continue persecuting the Jews. You have a country with stench all over it, a country that is dead frogs all over it, such an issue, and you can find your little space and be in denial. How often does it happen in our lives when something is directly in our face and we put ourselves on the side a little and we just are in denial what's happening? Like the doctor tells a person, if you continue this lifestyle and these eating habits, you're heading for diabetes. You'll probably lose a limb. Well, whatever, I'll deal with it when I deal with it. We don't deal with issues until we have to. They tell the story of a person who is Shomer Shabbat, a person who is Sabbath observant. The person who is Shomer Shabbat will not smoke a cigarette on Shabbat, but this person is a chain smoker. And the person was sick and coughing, and somebody said, how could you do it? You're killing yourself. You know what all the research says on this. He says, well, the research is only for people who smoke 7 days a week. I only smoke 6 days a week. It's so obvious, but yet such a distance. I'm distancing myself from the truth. In relationships, how often has it happened that somebody says, we've been living together for so many years, we're married together, we have children together, and yet I feel ourselves growing apart. How often does that happen in other types of relationships between parents and children, not just spouses? So this concept of me understanding I need to change, but finding my space on the side and not dealing with it is something we deal with in life. But how do we get out of it? We don't want to just live in the problem. We want to live in the solution. Well, for that, we have to wait till next week's Rabbi O on the Go. Suffice it to say, for right now, we have to realize there are some issues in life, as great as life is going, that we have issues that we can't solve ourselves. And instead of just shirking them and pushing them aside, like Paro did, let's do more like Moses did. And he's in the bush, he's given a mission, he says, I don't want the mission, I don't speak well, I have a speech impediment, but still he went through. What is it that allowed him to go through and deal with a reality, even a reality he didn't like? And Pharaoh, on the other hand, saw a reality and he chose to go to the space where he could be in denial. What's the difference in the two? And how do we deal with our issues? That'll be next week on Rabbi O to Go. Thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to leave a comment or ask me a question or like me to discuss a topic in a future episode of Rabbi O to Go, please email me at rabbi@charlottetorahcenter.com. Thanks so much for joining us.